Hello, romance book lovers. Welcome to Tales from the Heart. I'm Jenna Harte, and each week I post new episodes from my stories of crime and passion. Right now, we're listening to With This Ring, I Thee Kill, Book 3 of the Valentine Mysteries. This week is Episode 10, Chapter 10. Now, if you'd like to read along or get ahead in the story, you can get With This Ring, I Thee Kill from your favorite ebook retailer or save by buying direct from me. Now, With This Ring, I Thee Kill is the third book in the series, so if you missed book 1, Deadly Valentine, you can listen by checking earlier episode postings, or if you'd like to read it, you can get Deadly Valentine for free at my website, jennahart.com. Book 2, Old Flames Never Die, is available in earlier episode postings or available at your favorite ebook retailer, or again, you can pick it up less through my shop. Now, Tales from the Heart is posted to podcast platforms and YouTube each week. These episodes are edited to censor intimate content. If you'd like to have a version that includes the spicier bits, plus early access, behind-the-scenes information about stories, bonus content, and more, join me on Ream. Learn more at reamstories.com/Jenna Harte. Now, never miss the mystery or romance by hitting the subscribe button, and remember, all the details and links you might need are just a click away in the description. Now snuggle up, get comfy, and enjoy the show.
Chapter 10. Jack decided he wanted to keep the ring close, so he picked it up from his Washington office, intending to bring it back with him to Jefferson Tavern to store in a bank safe deposit box. Then he, Tess, Cora, and Cameron packed up the car and traveled back to Jefferson Tavern. Aside from the childlike bickering between Cora and Cameron during the drive back to Jefferson Tavern, Tess enjoyed the ride. She felt like she was coming home. She couldn't remember ever being happier or feeling more in charge of her life. For once, she was doing what she wanted, not what she felt obligated to do. During the first few days back, Jack stayed true to his word, helping Tess make arrangements for the wedding and negotiating the purchase of Césarier's boutique, something she didn't mention to her parents when she called them to tell them about the wedding. The wedding was enough to upset them. Was she pregnant? What would people think? Had she gone mad? Tess hung up the phone. She'd done her duty. The rest was up to them. By the end of the week, Cameron's mobility had improved as much as it could for someone who had a broken leg, and she was still determined to go to the auction of Orleans estate.
What do you hope to buy there?
Tess asked her as they sat in the sunny yellow kitchen drinking coffee the morning of the auction.
I want to find out about the ring.
You know what happened to the ring,
Tess said.
I want to know if they were in on it, how Tim and his goon found out about it.
Why?
Tess worried that her friend's need for answers or revenge could get her hurt again or killed.
Because I'm pissed off at being thrown down a flight of stairs.
Tess raised one brow at her friend. Cameron let out a breath.
And I don't want Tim to win.
Danger or no danger, Tess knew Cameron wouldn't be stopped. Tess looked at her watch.
I can be ready in 10 minutes.
Ready for what?
Jack said, entering the kitchen. He was dressed in his work-at-home clothes, jeans, t-shirt, and a large coffee mug.
To the auction,
Cameron said.
You're still planning to go?
Tess got the feeling he'd hoped they'd change their minds.
We've gone nearly a week without incident, and you want to go right into the lion's den?
Yep.
Cameron wobbled on her broken leg as she hoisted herself out of her chair.
Cameron thinks she might be able to learn something that can help.
Tess decided he didn't need to know about Cameron's goal to get back at her old beau. For a minute, Tess thought he might argue. Then he said,
Give me 15 minutes, I'll go with you.
Boy, you've got him trained,
Cameron said after he walked out.
He'll expect something in return,
Tess quipped.
Poor Tess.
They both laughed. Cars from all over the East Coast filled Bigby's parking lot.
Orleans stuff must be valuable,
Jack said as he navigated the car into a parking space in the back of the auction house.
I don't remember ever being at an auction with so many people.
He had a fabulous collection,
Cameron said.
That ring was probably the coolest item, but he had art and a vase that once decorated the halls of Versailles.
Did he collect only French stuff?
Jack asked.
Pretty much.
If you're going to ask them about the ring, we should probably go in separately,
Tess suggested.
They know Jack and I have the ring.
Jack and Tess waited until Cameron was inside and had a seat. They walked in and stood near the back.
Do you think she'll learn anything?
Jack whispered to Tess.
I think she'll have some insight.
The auction moved quickly. Tess and Jack learned how popular French items were. One bidder was clearly from France or Canada, as his thick French accent bellowed across the room to purchase several of Orleans' heirlooms. When the auction ended, Tess and Jack stayed in back and watched as Cameron limped on her crutches to the front of the room. She talked to Bigby, who motioned to his assistant Diana, who joined them.
I'll be curious as to what they tell her,
Jack said. Diana looked away from the discussion and caught sight of Jack.
Uh-oh, we've been spotted.
He watched as Diana motioned toward them.
If you want to know about the ring, Mr. Valentine is the one to ask.
Diane drew Cameron toward them.
I will ask, but I understand it was supposed to go for auction today. How is it they have it?
You'll have to ask them.
Diana said.
Jack, how are you?
Diana,
Jack greeted.
you remember my fiancée, Tess.
Yes, of course. This young woman was asking us about that ring you bought. Perhaps you can help her out. Do you still have it?
Not on me.
Jack said.
No. I guess not with all the problems it's been causing.
For a moment, Tess wondered if Diane knew about the ring's reputation for causing destruction, but then decided she was probably referring to Feinstein's murder.
Well, I need to get back to work. It was nice meeting you, Ms. Tamblyn.
Cameron nodded, but didn't say anything. All three watched until Diane was out of earshot. Then Cameron turned to them.
I'd sick your police buddy on her.
Diane, why?
Jack asked.
Because she's just the type of woman Tim would target and the type of woman that would fall for his charm.
That's it.
Jack asked.
I don't think Daniel is going to pursue a lead based on her being Tim's type.
Maybe we should take this out to the parking lot.
Tess noticed Diane watching them.
I'm telling you he should talk to her more. She manages the inventory.
Cameron said.
But Bigby did Orleans' inventory.
Jack helped Cameron get turned around so they could exit.
At the house, yes, but once it's here, it's her domain. She's a competent woman. No way she's going to misplace an item like that. That's how the police should play it.
Play to her ego.
Tess said.
Right. She'll probably pawn it off on Bigby, who really may have misplaced it. Is he the oldest living human?
Cameron asked.
He is old.
Tess agreed, remembering Daniel's comment about Bigby being scatterbrained.
And it's not the first time something went missing.
My gut says it's her. In fact, maybe your police friend can let me see Tim and I'll find out for sure.
They stood together alongside Jack's car.
I wonder if Daniel would do that.
Tess looked up at Jack to see what he thought about Cameron's idea.
I don't think he trusts you.
Jack said.
You don't trust me either, but here we are. You know that I'm your best bet for getting information from Tim.
Can't hurt to ask.
Tess said. Jack shrugged, but he didn't look convinced. Tess wasn't sure she was either. After all, Tim and Cameron had broken up months ago. It seemed unlikely he'd want to tell her anything that might help her get the ring. Except, Tess realized, Cameron could get the ring.
What if he thinks she has the ring?
Tess asked.
I don't trust Cameron, no offense.
I understand.
But neither do I want to put her in danger, and that ring is dangerous.
Jack said.
What if she makes Tim think she can get the ring? Would there be a reason you'd contact him about it?
Normally, no. But in this case, I can make a deal with him that if he and his goons leave you alone, I'll get the ring for him. He might believe that.
It could get more information and get him off our backs.
Tess said. He nodded, then looked to Cameron.
If you can get him off our backs, I'll give you the ring.
You don't have to give it to me, really.
Cameron said.
Even so, if this works, you can have the ring. It's a small price for our safety.
Small price, huh? How much did you pay for it?
Tess asked.
That old line again?
Jack opened the car door and helped Cameron get in.
Why does it matter so much?
I'm curious.
You know what curiosity did to the cat?
He opened Tess's door.
You know that cats have 9 lives?
Tell me you'll spend all 9 with me.
He gave her a quick, firm kiss. Cameron rolled her eyes.
Let it go before you both make me gag.
You think this will work?
Jack and Tess sat in a fast food restaurant down the road from the Jefferson Tavern jail, sharing a hot fudge sundae. They dropped Cameron off at the jail to visit Tim. It had taken several days and a little begging, but Daniel finally gave in and agreed to make the arrangements.
I don't think it will hurt.
Tess stirred the hot fudge into her ice cream.
I know she's your friend, but have you considered that she's in there conspiring with him?
Tess tilted her head as she studied Jack from across the table.
You don't trust her.
I haven't made that a secret.
I believe she's trying to help us. She's headstrong and sometimes gets in over her head, but her intentions are good.
Tess spooned a rounded bite of ice cream, fudge, and whipped cream into her mouth, savoring the chocolatey coolness.
You know what they say about a road paved with good intentions.
For a guy who can make a living as a motivational speaker, you sure are down on the goodness of people.
Just some people, and it's only because I love you and want to marry you, but it feels like the gods are against us.
If God is involved, it's that he brought us together.
Jack said.
Only women can create life.
Tess's lips twitched.
She then. The point is, while I don't like being in danger any more than you do, trouble is what brought us together.
So we're doomed to a lifetime of trouble?
It was odd for Jack to be the negative one, but she understood his worries. She was worried too. They were living in limbo, waiting for something to happen, unsure of what that might be.
How can being married to you be doomed?
Jack grinned and dipped his spoon into the icy dessert. Tess's phone pinged, indicating she had a text.
She's ready for us to pick her up,
she said, checking her phone.
That was quick.
He dumped the ice cream off his spoon and replaced it with a glob of hot fudge.
You're taking all the fudge,
Tess complained.
Yes, I am.
He put the spoon in his mouth.
Now that we're almost married, chivalry is gone?
You know when chocolate is involved, it's every man for himself.
I've got good news and bad news,
Cameron said as Jack helped her into the back seat of his car.
Let's hear the bad news.
Tess looked back at Cameron from the front seat.
He thinks he's getting out.
Out?
Tess asked. Cameron clipped her belt and waited until Jack was in the car before continuing.
He says his lawyer is working on getting a bail hearing.
There was a gun involved, that's a felony,
Tess said.
He says the other guy had the gun.
Tess thought about the morning Tim and Cal attacked them. Cal pulled the gun. Tim just tried to use his bare hands.
Doesn't it make a difference that his partner had a gun?
Jack asked.
I guess it depends on how Tim explains it. He could say he didn't know Cal had a gun. Tim was in jail when Cal accosted you with a gun the other day. He could say Cal is the real bad guy and get away with it,
Tess explained. Jack rested his wrists on the steering wheel and shook his head.
Unbelievable.
The good news is that he agreed to leave you alone if I get him the ring.
Well, that's something,
Tess said.
Can you trust him?
Jack started the car and cranked up the air conditioning.
No, but if he trusts me to get him the ring, I think he'll do it my way.
Does he trust you? After all, you can take the ring and run.
Jack asked.
Remember when we discussed this earlier? I told you I don't really need the ring.
He doesn't know that.
Jack reminded her.
And if he's going to get out, how are we going to pull this off if he doesn't actually get the ring?
His statement echoed Tess's thoughts. They hadn't planned on Tim getting out of jail.
I told him it would take time and that it would be better to wait until you're married and away on a honeymoon.
Tess looked at Jack to gauge his reaction.
I'm concerned about what he'll do when he realizes he's been duped.
Jack said.
He'll come after me.
Cameron said.
But even if he gets out of jail, he probably won't be allowed to leave the country, so I'll just go back to France. Hopefully, he'll be found guilty during the trial and go back to jail.
There's a lot of uncertainty in all this, but it will do for now.
Jack turned up the long driveway to his and Tess's home.
I think I'm right about that Diane person at the auction house,
Cameron said.
Did Tim tell you something?
Tess asked.
I mentioned her and waved her off, saying, she's nothing.
And that makes you think she's involved?
Jack glanced at Cameron through the rearview mirror.
He knew who she was. She may not know she's involved, but Tim isn't going to know anybody in this town unless he's involving them in his scheme.
But if he picked Bigby to fence the ring, someone there would knowingly be involved, right?
Tess asked.
Yes, and my money is still on the woman. Tim may have dismissed her to me because he doesn't need her anymore.
Because she doesn't have the ring.
Tess said.
Right, but there's something else. When I mentioned what happened at the party and how I was certain it was about the ring, he was royally pissed.
Really?
Tess asked, intrigued.
Whoever came after me, or rather, you, wasn't doing so on Tim's orders.
That means he has competition.
Tess said.
Or dissension.
Cameron said. Jack frowned.
And that means we're still in danger.
Jack and Tess sat on the swing in the screened-in porch, watching the evening sun dip behind the Blue Ridge Mountains. The heat and humidity hung heavy in the July air, despite being nearly 9 in the evening. In the background, Cameron called Cora a crone and a cheater, to which Cora responded,
"Shut up and deal the cards."
It was nice of you to get Cora a playmate.
Jack said.
I just hope this game of spite and malice doesn't turn deadly.
Cameron's not very mobile and Cora's too slow, so I think they'll be all right.
I think Cameron's outings have been to get away from Cora. She's going stir-crazy.
After only a few days in Jefferson Tavern, Cameron begged Tess to take her to get a rental car so she could get out of the house when Cora became too much for her. She wasn't on medication, and her right leg was fully functional, so Cameron was given a doctor's okay to drive.
I can't blame her, but their bickering is taking away from this romantic setting.
Maybe I could distract you.
I think you should try.
Jack pulled her to him and kissed her.
It's not working.
Jack said. Tess turned to see Daniel standing in the doorway of the porch.
Cora let me in.
Come in.
Tess scooted away from Jack.
Cora probably didn't offer you anything to drink? Want a beer?
No, thank you.
Daniel sat in a wicker chair across from them.
It's kind of late. Is something wrong?
Tess asked.
No, this is the first chance I had to stop by and what I had to say I wanted to say in person.
Tess looked at Jack, whose concerned expression mirrored her own.
Did you hear Tim is trying to get bail?
Tess nodded.
Cameron told us. Do you think there is a chance he'll succeed?
Not really. He doesn't live here and has no ties to the area, so he's a flight risk.
Will you call us if he does get out?
Tess asked.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure it would matter.
Jack said.
Why not?
Daniel asked. Jack explained Tim's reaction when Cameron told him someone else was after the ring.
If that's true, you're still in danger no matter what.
Daniel sat back in his chair. His brows furrowed as he considered the news.
We've been working under the idea that the ring was mistakenly put with jewelry that went from Bigby's to Feinstein's. And when Tim and Cal found out, they tried to get it back and Cal killed Feinstein.
Do we know for sure that it was Tim and Cal at Feinstein's?
Tess asked.
The bullet used to kill Feinstein is a match to Cal's gun.
Daniel verified.
You're wondering if maybe Feinstein was in on the scam too.
Jack said, following up on Daniel's original statement.
Your friend Cameron said a jewelry store would be a good place to fence the ring.
Daniel said.
Is there something in particular that makes you think Feinstein was involved?
Tess asked.
One thing that bothers me is how Bigby would misplace a ring like that. He's an expert in antiques. He knew the types of things Orlean had, so he had to know the ring was valuable. And
Daniel continued on.
Only that ring ended up at Feinstein's, which means it was separated from the rest of the items being inventoried from Orlean's estate. Why would he do that?
To research it?
Jack offered.
That suggests Bigby knew it was important, in which case, wouldn't he put it in the safe?
Why get Feinstein involved at all?
Jack asked.
Bigby could easily fence the ring through the auction house.
But in that case, wouldn't he leave the ring off the inventory list?
Tess asked.
True, but he wasn't alone when he took the inventory.
Daniel explained.
Who was with him?
Tess asked.
He has 2 men that help with packing, storing, and bringing items to the auction house. James Latner and Hoyt Puckett confirmed they were at Orlean's place, although neither could remember the ring specifically. They're more brawn than brain. Latner only remembered the nude art.
Tess remembered talking with Diane the day Tim and Cal tried to steal the ring from them.
Diane said she didn't know anything about the ring. She didn't see it on an inventory. Maybe she's the one who's lying. She could have taken the ring and given it to Feinstein. By saying she never saw it, she makes Bigby look suspicious. It's not the first time something has disappeared.
I pressed her on that again. She admitted to doctoring the inventory when the silver went missing. She insists, though, that it was to protect Bigby.
He's a convenient scapegoat,
Tess said. Daniel nodded but said,
It could be the other way around. Bigby puts the ring on the inventory, then it disappears after it gets to Diane, making her look suspicious. But if one of them is part of the scam, then they would have purposefully sent the ring to Feinstein's. They wouldn't have misplaced a ring that was going to set them up for life, and that means someone at Feinstein's was part of the plot.
Both Jacob and Diane said Feinstein didn't do business with Bigby anymore. In fact, the way they describe Mr. Feinstein makes it seem impossible he'd be involved in a crime like this.
Tess said.
What about Feinstein's grandson, Jacob? He could have been in on it.
Jack offered.
You did say he and Diane dated.
I don't know.
Tess shook her head.
He didn't know about the ring, and it sounds like the two of them didn't part on friendly terms.
But if Jacob were involved, wouldn't he have put the ring somewhere where Ricky couldn't sell it to you?
Daniel asked.
And he said he was out of town for a few days. If I were about to take possession of a rare ring, I don't think I'd be away. Too much could go wrong,
Tess said.
Or it could be that he went out of town to take suspicion off of him.
Jack said.
Jacob was back in town by 5 the night of the murder.
Daniel said.
I had the ring by then.
Jack said.
Maybe he came back, found the ring gone, and killed his grandfather.
Cal is the murderer. It was his gun.
Daniel reminded them.
Jacob is no rocket scientist, but you'd think if he were taking the ring, he'd stash it in a place where no one in the shop could get to it.
Was the safe something they used every day?
Daniel's expression turned thoughtful.
This was a smaller safe, under the desk in the back. They had another larger safe there as well. It wasn't touched.
So Cal and Tim knew the ring would be in the smaller safe.
Jack said.
Jacob could have put it there and told them how to open it.
I don't know. Why would he put the ring in a place where his grandfather might stumble on it?
Ricky must be in the clear too,
said Jack.
He wouldn't have sold the ring to me if he was trying to fence it.
That takes us back to Mr. Feinstein. Maybe he had a change of heart and wanted in on whatever Bigby was doing. They were both planning to retire, and the economy probably hit whatever retirement accounts they had hard.
Tess offered. Jack nodded.
A ring like that could offset those losses.
Like how much loss?
Tess leaned close to Jack, making another attempt to learn the value of her ring. Jack grinned.
Only of some of it.
She frowned.
You're stubborn.
I'm not the one obsessed with the price of a ring.
Jack took her hand, kissed her wrist.
Getting back to the case.
Daniel said, not hiding his annoyance.
I'm wondering if the mistake was made at Feinstein's when the ring was sold to Jack. For some reason it's not put away and Ricky finds it and sells it to you. Tim and Cal show up to get it as planned, but it's gone. Cal gets mad and kills Feinstein.
But wasn't Feinstein dragged out of bed and taken to the shop?
Tess asked.
If they were expecting to find the ring there because Feinstein said it would be there, it would make sense that they'd want him to remedy the situation right away.
Daniel replied.
Why not go back and kill Bigby too? He knew about the ring,
Tess said.
Maybe he thought like Tim and Cal did, that Feinstein double-crossed them and so he agreed to getting rid of him.
Bigby as a murderer? I don't see it.
Tess shook her head.
Murderers don't walk around with big M's on their forehead,
Daniel said.
I know. He just seemed too old.
A loud thud sounded in the background. Then Cameron yelled.
You're cheating!
I don't need to cheat. You suck at cards.
Cora replied.
Might be time to send in a referee.
Jack said.
It's your turn.
No.
Jack insisted.
I went last time.
You went after breakfast, I went after lunch.
He pondered that.
Damn, you're right.
I guess this is practice for kids,
Daniel quipped.
Our kids will be better behaved,
Jack said. They sat and listened for a moment. When they heard nothing further, Jack added,
Sounds like they worked it out.
Has Cameron shared any more information?
Daniel asked.
Nothing new.
Tess said. He leaned forward.
Do you know where she's been going?
Tess felt her stomach drop.
She's had cabin fever, so she's taken a few afternoons to get away.
She felt Jack's eyes on her.
But you don't know where she went.
I'm not her mother.
Tess snapped.
Where has she been going?
Jack asked Daniel.
One day she was at a warehouse owned by Bigby. Another day she was at Feinstein's.
You've been following her?
Tess asked.
Not at first. We had someone at the warehouse when she showed up. So I decided to see where else she went.
What is she doing? Who's she talking to?
Jack asked.
She's asking about the ring.
She's probably doing what we're doing.
Tess defended Cameron.
She has a stake in all this as well.
Maybe. But Sam thinks he's not getting the whole story from witnesses.
Daniel said, referring to his partner Sam Collier.
Why?
Jack asked.
Gut feeling, which I know is inadmissible in court.
He said before Tess could remind him.
Why not just ask her?
Tess stood and headed inside to get Cameron. A few minutes later, Cameron limped out behind Tess onto the screened porch.
I've told him everything I know.
He says you've been to Bigby's and Feinstein's.
Tess said. Cameron looked from Daniel to Jack, ending at Tess.
You're suspicious of me.
Tess knew the comment was directed at her and tried not to feel guilty that she had reservations.
I want to believe you, but I told you already. My priority is my and Jack's safety.
Cameron turned back to Daniel and Jack.
I'm trying to find out about the ring. Tim said he would stay out of it if I helped him get it. As I'm sure you know, he thinks he can get out of jail. But he isn't in charge anymore, or there's someone else involved and I'm trying to figure out who that is.
Silence followed her statement, and Cameron once again made a point to look at each person, ending at Tess.
You believe me, don't you?
Why didn't you tell us what you were doing?
Tess asked.
Because you're planning a wedding.
Cameron said in desperation.
You shouldn't worry about all this. I thought I could help because I know a few of the players.
So what did you learn?
Daniel asked. Cameron shifted, wobbled. Tess steadied her.
Why don't you sit?
Daniel stood, offered his chair to Cameron. She settled into the chair while Tess sat on the porch swing next to Jack.
I haven't learned anything.
Any guesses?
Daniel pressed.
Well, I don't know if this means anything, but you said Tim and Cal tried to steal the ring from Orlin but failed.
That's right.
Daniel said.
So I was wondering, who was Tim going to fence the ring through if they'd succeeded? He didn't need 2 fences.
So you think either Bigby or Feinstein was the original fence, but not both?
Tess said.
Right. And my money is on Feinstein's.
Why?
Daniel asked.
It makes more sense. Why would a ring be in an auction unless the owner was liquidating or dead? Mr. Orlean wasn't either, originally.
Is there any chance they killed Orlean and planned to fence it through Bigby?
Jack asked Daniel.
I looked at that, and Orlean's death certificate says natural causes. I've asked the medical examiner to take a closer look, but so far there's no change.
So did Tim and Cal give up after the first attempt to get the ring from Orlean? And how did they know Orlean died, making the ring available?
Tess wondered out loud.
Exactly.
Cameron said.
I think the fence contacted them after Orlean's death.
But who is the fence?
Jack asked.
So far, the best suspect is Mr. Feinstein, who's dead.
I'm concerned about the co-conspirators.
Daniel said.
There had to be someone else besides Feinstein.
The guy that threw me down the stairs.
Cameron said.
There could be more.
Tess said.
There were a lot of people at the auction. It's possible Tim and Cal had competition. Now that they're out of the way, anyone else can step in.
Jack took Tess's hand in both of his as if he was trying to protect her.
And kill for it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Tales from the Heart. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back to find out what happens next. Now remember, you can listen to full uncensored episodes over at ringstories.com/Jenna Harte. Just click the follow button and then select With This Ring I Thee Kill audio for all the episodes. If you'd like to read along or get ahead in the story, you can get With This Ring I Thee Kill from your favorite ebook retailer, or you can save by buying direct from me. All the details and links you might need are just a click away in the description. Make sure you don't miss the next episode. Hit the subscribe button so you'll know when it's posted. Thank you again for listening, and until next time, this is Jenna Harte wishing you peace, love, and happily ever after.